Hey everyone, this episode of Fall Obsession Podcast is brought to you guys in partnership with our friends at Hoot Camo, Bear River Archery, Tacticam Reveal, and the Outdoor Call radio app. Hoot Camo and Bear River have some discount codes for our podcast listeners. If you want to shop with Hoot, use the code Fall Obsession 15 at checkout. And if you want to shop with Bear River, then use the code Fall Obsession to save money with them. Those codes are also listed in the episode description wherever you are streaming from. Go check them out there along with links to all of those partners' pages. Be sure that you guys are following Fall Obsession Podcast, that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, and give us a like on our social media pages. We always appreciate that. Check out our website, fallobsession.com. We got some new apparel that just dropped on there. We always appreciate you showing your support by liking the pages and following along with our journey. I am your show host, Sam Thrash, and this week my guest is Casey Chamberlin. He is the developer, creator, and the brain behind Baseline Maps. This is a phenomenal conversation, guys. Don't miss it. You are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
The power lies within that middle ground.
Hunting transformed my life.
I think you have to be built somewhat different.
That Dale Brisby's a super puncher.
We need to get Pop-Tarts on the next Walmart order. I'm serious.
Because to come into this country and stay dedicated to that, it was pretty awesome.
If it's only for one, then you've done your job.
We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to another one of our Fall Obsession Podcast episodes. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm hosting you guys. My guest this week is Casey Chamberlin from Baseline Maps. Welcome, man, to Fall Obsession Podcast.
Man, this is exciting, Sam. I'm super grateful to be here. I think I got a cool story to share and just really appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yeah, man. I love having people on that got cool stories to share. That's we've been rolling that way for a long time. So let's dive into it. Like, how did you get into hunting in the outdoors? What's that look like in your life?
How I got into hunting, man, it was really my uncle, dude. It's I just wandered out in the woods with him, and kind of the saying, follow in their footsteps. I remember when I was just a young kid, just seeing where he stepped, and we were kind of going behind gates and hiking, and I'd put my feet right where his footsteps were, and I wasn't paying attention most of the time, and I remember one day he just turned to me and said, "Hey, you want to shoot a deer?" And when he said that, I didn't even resonate with, I never even thought about actually shooting a deer at that age.
Yeah.
And he pulled up my gun, got me all positioned, and it was a blacktail buck. It's about a 200-yard shot, and I was just so excited. I didn't know kind of all what was going on, and I placed a good shot on him, and I just got hooked, man. And I think that was a really powerful experience for me, because he kind of walked me through being patient after the shot, giving that deer time to kind of expire and talking me through the whole thing. And I'm just sitting there shaking, I just remember sitting at clear cut edge and just shaking, and just the coolest experience. And then since then, man, I've been chasing blacktail and Roosevelt bulls and coyote hunting, duck hunting, all of the above, man.
That's
It's
awesome.
been my whole life now.
Yeah, you got the bug early on and it bit you and you took off with it. That's awesome.
Yeah, the second time I went out with my uncle, we actually were bear hunting, and he's like, "You wanna shoot a bear?" And there's another guy he was like, "Man, I've always wanted to shoot a bear." I'm like, "Let him shoot it, man." Like, I just shot a deer just recently, and yeah, man, it was just a cool experience seeing a bear. I shot a 2-point blacktail for my first buck, and it's just cool, man. It just got me hooked, and ever since then, I've just been kind of obsessed with it, man.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
Yeah, we all are over here in case it wasn't obvious, but so where are you now? Like, where do you live and hunt now?
Well, I go back and forth between Illinois and Shelton, Washington. So
Okay.
I hunt in Washington State. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's your favorite thing to hunt up there?
it's tough because there's nothing better than watching a mature blacktail like come out of a timber edge. But I say chasing Roosevelts with my bow come September.
Yeah.
That is addicting, man.
Yeah, that's
That's a whole nother ball game for sure. The blacktail thing has always intrigued me too, because I've talked to several people on this show. You meet some interesting folks and some cool people when you are trying to run a podcast in the hunting industry. But whenever the subject of blacktail pops up, it always intrigues me. I've never hunted blacktail, and I've probably never even seen a blacktail, if I'm being honest. I've never been anywhere
Really?
to see one, but yeah, it's always just they're interesting creatures and everything, and just I don't know. It's just it's like
They're
this.
elusive, man.
Yeah, it's like this ghost of a mountain deer is what it feels like, and it's pretty freaking cool. I need to go chase one of these days. Check
So
that off
much
the
fun.
bucket list.
Yeah, I'll be back in Washington this Thursday, and we're going out coyote hunting with a few buddies, and I'm looking forward to that. Just calling in coyotes. But yeah, man, blacktail, it is so much fun. You know, there's so many different tactics hunting blacktail, whether you are glassing those timber edges, you know, hiking back in behind gates, and or sitting on a straight stretch is really productive as well. I would say that's very productive.
Yeah.
But it's fun, man. There's nothing like a blacktail, a big mature blacktail coming out of the timber, you know, because you're generally hunting thick timber, and you see that doe, man, and you just know if it's October, there's hopefully a buck trailing it. So it just gets me fired up, man.
Yeah, I can feel it. I feel like, anyway,
Especially when it's downpouring, man. When it's
Oh,
down,
yeah.
just sitting there in the thick timber, and you see a doe, you're like, okay, where's that buck? You know, it's 15, 20 yards off somewhere, you know. So you're just waiting. It's the best, man.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'll have to check it off the bucket list. I got too many things on my bucket list, and I'm definitely at the point where it's like, if not now, when? So I gotta I gotta start doing some stuff. Um, so real quick for anybody that's hopping on the YouTube, we are live this evening. If anybody does have any questions throughout the conversation, want to engage in the chat, we are monitoring that. So feel free to throw something in there, man. Obviously a big portion of our topic is what you've created here with Baseline, and I guess it's cliche to ask how it all started, right? But it's an important part of the story, and I'm especially curious just because, you know, like a lot of stuff in the outdoor industry, there's a lot of different options out there for folks,
Yeah.
right? So definitely when it comes down to your initiative and your I want to make a product and I want it to do this, you know, I imagine that there's a unique component to that you know, you weren't finding with some of the competitors. So I want to hear the story on where this idea came from and kind of where it all originated.
Yeah, man, it's probably one of the most important times in my life. Certainly the most, I would say, emotional times in my life. But about 2 years ago, my mom passed away, man, and I just felt kind of lost, dude. To be honest, man, I was sitting around a campfire with my buddy Evan, and I just was asking him questions, and we were just talking about life. And I said, I just want to build something, you know, like something that I'm super passionate about. And we were actually fishing for winter runs, steelhead. And he said, dude, build a fishing app, like for us to see the gauges and see the emergency regulations and all this. And I said, I don't know, like when he said that, I just felt like joy, you know, and I never really set out to build an app that was used by so many people. It was really just to check the rivers. And then we were going out clam digging, and this was me installing this app on buddies' phones, right? Like we meet up to fish or go clam digging, and I was installing the app on their phone. There was no app store, there was nothing. We had 5 rivers in there and razor clam dig stuff. And then my buddy Andrew was like, hey man, can you add buoys and tides in there? Because him and his friends worked the tides. And so I added those in there, and I was like, man, I can't be running around installing this on friends' laptop or on their phones, you know?
Yeah.
So let me get it on Test Flight. Well, so Apple Test Flight is a way for you to like test out an app and install it on multiple devices, man. So I did that for a while, and that's kind of what built our founders group. So like the founders of Driftline at the time. So it started as Driftline, and that grew so quick, like faster than I anticipated, and it was just by word of mouth and just friends kind of joining up. And at that point, like I was coding up feature requests and fixing bugs, and I was working on it pretty much every night. And people loved it, man. And it just like gave me kind of this renewed purpose to just keep going. And then it reached a certain point where like I feel like an obligation to the community now that I can't let these folks down, because they've invested all their time in just submitting a feature request or reporting a bug because everyone's busy, man. Like for them to take the time to just let me know what needs to be improved or what needs to be fixed, like I feel an obligation now to the community. Like, all right, I got to keep going. I can't throw in the towel, and it's a lot of work, but these folks just love it, man, and it keeps me going, and I get excited now.
That's awesome, man. So, and I guess, I mean, obviously, if you're building something like this, like I don't have the knowledge or background to even know where to start with that. So I'm obviously you had some background in coding and that kind of thing before this started. You said 3 years ago, right?
1 year ago.
1 year ago. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's new, man. It's really new, and it's just the growth of the community and the people that I've met through it. Just incredible folks, man. It's so cool. Like just the conversations that are having. So yeah, it's just been at a year mark.
wow, that's awesome, man. That's fast growth for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
So, you said it started as drift line, and the idea came from, fishing and rivers and that whole element to it and everything. But obviously, the name has changed, and you got a whole lot more going on. So I take it that was just that same kind of gauging the community's need and listening to what
Yeah.
people were asking for, and you realize, man, I need to do a whole lot more with this. That's what I'm hearing at least.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. I just kept fielding these requests from the community, and somewhere along the way, somebody said, "Hey, like, can you add unit boundaries into this?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's such a great idea." So there was like multiple iterations of like, how do I make a fishing and hunting app as one, and like make like the experience of the folk like the person using it like seamless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was all back and forth with the community. I'd put out an update, and like they're quick, man. Folks in the community are like, "Hey, this sucks, man. Like you need to change this. You need to put this back. Like don't mess with my rivers." And then somewhere like we kind of like smooth things out with a toggle, like a fish and a hunt toggle.
Okay.
So if it comes September, October, November, you can toggle it into the hunt mode. Now it's a complete hunting app. When you're
Gotcha.
chasing winter steelhead, you get into Chinook or summer runs, you toggle it back over to fish. And that gives you all your tides and your buoys. Back over to hunt, you get unit boundaries, hunting regs, seasons, all that good stuff. Private land ownership.
Gotcha. Very cool. And you keep talking about the community and everything and the influence that has had in all this.
Yeah.
Are they able to um and forgive me because I have not played around in the app like I probably should have before having you on the show,
All
but
good.
are they able to engage and talk and submit feedback through the app, or is this like social media, influence and feedback that you're getting? How is this community plugging into each other and plugging into you?
Yeah. So multiple different avenues, but inside the app, you can submit a feature request or report a bug,
Okay.
an issue. And then as soon as you submit that, it actually gets dropped into what I call the development queue, and you can see your request in there as well. So I run it through kind of a pipeline that scrubs it. So like I'm not in for spot burning or anything like that. So it'll like clean it up, make it a more generalized request.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see that submission that you reported. And then
Gotcha.
I kind of work off that development queue. But folks now it'll come through text, phone call, Instagram, Facebook. It's kind of all over the board, man. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know if folks are tuning in live, they probably caught it early on before we hit record. But for everybody else listening on the other platforms, um, you mentioned earlier there's no big team or anything behind you. You're running this thing, you're building this thing, and so when people are giving you feedback or talking to you, asking questions, whatever it might be, they're talking to you, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man, it's been an incredible journey, man. So like, it's just me working on the app, but thankfully, like folks in the community have helped like create content or use the app out in the woods or out fishing. Isaiah and Gabe, PNW Outdoor Pursuits, and Gabe Robinson, like, have been huge supporters and just helping me one shape how the app looks and feels and operates out in the field, but also just spreading the word. Like it's been incredible, and now the community behind it is something else, man. It's so cool.
Yeah. So let me ask you, kind of back along the lines of, I know I mentioned it earlier when we were kind of just getting to the origins of it and
Yeah.
stuff, and it started with, you wanting some features in just for you and your buddies in the fishing world mainly, but with what it is today, and compared to all the other options out there, because we mentioned that earlier, like there's so many out there, and I myself as a consumer, I've used two or three different ones over the years, just I don't know, playing around with some, or getting the opportunity to work on one of them for a couple years, whatever it might be. What sets you apart? What makes Baseline different or a better option for the hunter, in your opinion?
Specifically for the hunter, man, um, you get a lot inside Baseline. So we do offer a free version, which provides you like the private parcels and all that. But I think more importantly, I think a lot can be said for like the other companies, but like I truly care, man, about the community and where this is going, and I have the community's best interest in mind, man. Like it brings me a lot of joy to like build this for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I mean, from a feature perspective, you're going to get, a lot. You're going to get LiDAR, offline maps, 3D, satellite hybrid topo, private land ownership. Um, but especially if you're looking for more of that intel, like that intelligence factor, you're going to get, best times, forecast, like free, incredible weather. Um, there's so many features in there, man. My brain's running like 100 miles per hour right now, but emergency regulations, block management areas, private land opportunities. So some incredible stuff. Legislature is a huge piece in there as well. So
Yeah, so I want to talk about that a little bit, maybe more specifically, just because I feel like that's not necessarily a component that is tied in as far as rules, regs, and you just mentioned legislature and that kind of stuff to some of these other apps and everything. So what are you looking to monitor? What are you looking to offer through that app? How does that work for the hunter, for the fisherman, for the consumer when they actually open the app and they're trying to gain information?
yeah, so you ask really great questions, man. So somewhere along the way, when it evolved from drift line and ridge line, which was the hunting side, to now baseline maps, um, I recognize that like communities are coming together. Like people that have never fished are now hunting, and people that have never hunted are now fishing, right?
Yes.
Um, and that's something powerful, man. And I want to make sure that we can take advantage of that opportunity, right? So awareness is key. Like our opportunities to hunt and our opportunities to fish, it's difficult to see that increasing, right? Like it's more probable that it'll begin to decrease. So we have an opportunity as outdoorsmen and women to show up to these hearings,
Mm-hmm.
show up to the and comment on these legislature pieces that are being proposed. So what I spent it took about 2 months to build all these different pipelines to scrape all this government data off the legislature sites. But what it allows us to do now is see upcoming hearings, upcoming legislature, both state and federal level, and links inside the app to click on. So you can just comment real quickly, or you can just join that hearing with a click of a button.
So when you say comment real quickly, are you talking about like it's essentially like an action tab where you're able to submit something to your representatives and that kind of stuff?
Yep.
All from this app. That's incredible, man. That is huge right there. But
Yeah, it's so cool, man. And and again, I want to like emphasize this. None of this was my idea, but since I get to see all these requests coming in, I do a lot of thinking about it. Like how can we best use the data that's being requested? Because somebody on the community wanted that, right?
mhm.
But somebody requested legislature. So I said, oh my God, like that's an incredible idea. Let's make this available to everybody. And I'm going to make it as easy as possible for someone to comment on something they don't agree with or agree with.
Mhm.
And just having all of that data available to us is powerful.
Well, and I think that having it in the format or offered on a platform like what you have here through an app like what you have is paramount. And I think it's an incredible idea. And I know you said that you're trying not to take credit for it, because you get all these suggestions and everything. But and granted, I have not spent time on all of the other competitors' platforms or apps to know if there's another one out there that's doing it or building the same thing. But honestly, I hope that there would be, because more people need to be aware of all that kind of stuff that's happening and stuff. And when somebody is looking to get into hunting, right? When somebody's hunting public land for the first time, when somebody's going out of state for the first time, when somebody's a new hunter, and they're looking for the resources and stuff that they need to try and be more successful, in today's technological day and age, they're gonna download an app. Like at some point, somebody's gonna tell them, "Hey, go download whatever app, or go download Baseline to help you with your scouting, with your fishing, with your hunting, all that kind of stuff." So to have that in front of their face to early on help them understand, the importance of it, and that you as a hunter, you have a voice, you need to be involved, I think is incredible. Because and I've talked about this on the show. I'm not trying to turn this into a full-blown conservation conversation, but man, there are new hunters out there that they're just I get it. They're so excited just to get into hunting and just to get out there in the woods and start doing it, and they're eating up everything, and they're certainly reaping the benefits, but they also need an early education on the importance of being involved and using your voice, and standing up for our rights as hunters, and for science-based wildlife management, whatever it might be. And I just feel like there's been and I'll speak for myself, like when I first got into hunting, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, conservation hunting laws, like other than what you get in your little pamphlet that I get whenever I purchase my hunting license at Academy every year, I didn't think anything of it until later, and stuff, social media hunting stuff on there starts taking off, conservation starts making a bigger push on there, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff going on that I was completely ignorant to. And more people need to know about that earlier on, more than ever, I feel like. So I give you kudos, man, because that is a huge feature, that's essential in today's day and age, and to put it on an app like that, I think is paramount.
I appreciate it, man. And again, it goes back to the community, and kind of where my headspace is at right now is there, in the app, in Baseline, there's a homepage, and I'm really trying to structure the homepage to get the data that folks want to see right there, right? Like, but I also want to provide upcoming hearings and upcoming opportunities to comment on these pieces of legislature. And then additionally, like emergency regulations, right? So like here in Washington, you got to worry about, if you're fishing the rivers, you got to worry about catch record zones. You got to worry about emergency fishing regulations. And then like on the land opportunities, you got to where you're standing, whose land you're on. There's so much to it. And if I can somehow build the app to where it's intuitive to use and it's super informative, I think that's a huge win.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm down here in Texas, and most of my experience growing up, and people can people can call me a snob or whatever, but I hunted a lot of private land growing up and everything, and
Yeah.
and before these smartphones and all these apps and all this kind of stuff that we have now, so you knew where your property lines were, and that was it pretty much. And certainly, like, as I started hunting within the last 10 years, as I started hunting out of state and started going elsewhere, and using maps, e-scouting, that kind of stuff, it's become, I've certainly become more aware of. Obviously, think Texas has it pretty easy when it comes to some of these regulations, and some of the stuff that you got to be mindful of from hunting season to hunting season. I hunted northeastern Colorado for mule deer in 2023, flatland, like farmland, and we had the family that I got invited to go up there with. They had about 3,500 acres, and
Oh my.
I ultimately ended up, like, again, didn't seem like 3,500 acres because it was flat. There's hardly any trees, but and I ended up killing my mule deer on that piece. But for the course of the week, like, we were busting our butts scouting both online and driving these farm roads and stuff like that. And their family had gotten us permission on some other private landowners' pieces, and then I'm having to understand, like, the walk-in concept out there in Colorado, and small game versus big game, and just I got a healthy education that week on on what I didn't know about some of these permission pieces and different types of access and stuff like that. So resources like that, man. If you're hunting public land, or if you're hunting, I would say even Texas, any state, you need to have a resource to be able to tell you all that kind of stuff.
It's true, man. It's 100% true. And if through baseline now with the legislature piece, like, if we can get more folks showing up to these hearings, it's gonna be so powerful, just for us as a community to, like, show up and let our voice be heard. So that's kind of where my headspace is at right now, is taking what we've built together now, and how can we get people to show up to these hearings?
Yeah.
Because if we grow from 5, 10 people showing up to these hearings to 1,000, that's powerful. So try and make it as easy as possible, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. We're doing our own version of it in our own way that we're capable of here on our end too. Just because, the last couple of years I've had a big, I call it my conservation campaign, that keeps popping up on this podcast, and I feel like if not every episode, at least every couple episodes, conservation becomes at least a portion of the show. And it's important, and I'm passionate about it for sure. And I myself have seen the difference that it can make when people show up versus when they don't. And I'm over here with a great team here at Fall Obsession, and a lot of people in a lot of different states, a lot of content creators in different states. I'm like, we need to do something more than just me talking about it on the podcast. Even though that reaches a decent number of people, it's like we need more. So and we're planning, and I don't know if by the time this episode drops, if it'll be live yet. If not, it'll be soon. But, like, we're building a conservation page on our own website, and have one of our coordinator guys that's gonna kind of run it and head it up, and try to keep it updated with current issues as well, and point people in that direction, because people need to understand. I currently have a list of websites that I go on at least once a week that do the same thing, and just kind of scroll through just to see, hey, what's happening right now. Obviously there's stuff on there that you're hearing about, but then what are some of the other smaller issues that I haven't heard about? And we got a team.
Man.
Yeah, there's so many. Like, we got a team, and we got 40 on our roster right now, and they cover 16 different states in Canada. And it's like, we have to, I want to use these folks, because I might not know of a smaller, not little, but a less spotlighted issue in Michigan, for example. But I got guys in Michigan who can definitely provide education on that for myself and everyone else. So more people need to use whatever platform or voice they have, I feel like, to put it out there for the world, because people need to understand. Because it's not, there's a public land crisis. There's Proposition 127 in Colorado a couple years ago. There's all these things that have popped up, and big things that have been front and center. and hunters might consider the end result a win, but that doesn't mean that it goes away. It's far from over, because they just, all that happens is it circles back around, and the next time it comes, it's bigger and got more teeth than it did the first time. So
Yeah, man, it's so important right now. Like I would say more than ever, because as I dig more into like the budget and how the budget is allocated at these
yeah,
fish and wildlife agencies, speaking specifically about like Washington, a lot of it comes from the general fund, the general state fund, right? So the more folks that we can get involved with fishing and hunting, the more funds that get returned back to fish and wildlife agencies. And we got to be cognizant that the numbers of anglers and hunters are declining, year over year, and they're starting to forecast that, and the budget's a huge thing as well. So inside baseline, we also have the budget breakdown. I think for Washington, Idaho, Oregon, as I have it built out now. But
wow,
that's another piece that kind of marries up with the legislature, because if they're pushing pieces of legislature, but the funding isn't there to support it, we have to like be cognizant of that too, as hunters and anglers. So that's one piece that I'm focused on as well.
yeah.
With legislation right now.
So can people help with that? Like, obviously, as we've reiterated many times, like the community is influential in this, but you're building it all yourself. You just mentioned 3 states or so that you've gotten to this resource or this amount of information so far.
Yeah.
But if there's people in other states that can provide some insight, is that useful to you, or are you still having to vet it anyway and do your own research? Or I'm just kind of spitballing and asking if people can help in that way. But
100%, because anytime somebody requests, like whether it be a feature or just has an idea or just sends me a message of like, hey, you should look into this, that kind of points me in the right direction, right? The way that I kind of visualize this is like I'm in the back of the boat, and like the community is rowing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're rowing the boat. I'm just kind of holding on with my laptop in the back, just kind of chipping away. But yeah, any messages or like feature requests, or reach out to me. I'd love to even have a conversation about what's on their mind, because it's super important. And I certainly don't know everything, of course. So like the community just kind of guides me.
yeah, that's awesome, man. So
Yeah.
I want to dive in a little bit into just the product itself, or the map itself. I mean, you're obviously very very well versed in it, very well versed in what resources like this are capable of doing, how to interpret them, how to read them, how to properly utilize them. You've built the product, but what are some, for lack of a better term, common mistakes that you might see a consumer making when they're trying to utilize a resource like yours? That avoidable mistakes, perhaps, or just something that they don't fully understand how to properly use.
It's a great question. Preparation.
Yeah.
Preparation. Like whether it be fishing or hunting, like if I start on the fishing side, like if you're checking the CFS of a river, or gauge height, like 2000 CFS on one river is entirely different on another river, right? So understanding where you're going into, what river you're going to fish, and the same goes for hunting, like understanding the forecast, the pressure, like what those animals generally do day in and day out. Trail cameras help with that, of course, but you can download an app and you can look at all the data that it can provide, but you have to really put in the time to understand that unit, right? And folks can go into a unit, like I've certainly gone into a unit and got lucky, right? Shot a bull or killed a buck. But if you truly take the time to understand that unit, understand bedding, movement patterns, and use the weather in that forecast to your, in your favor for that specific unit, right? That's going to make all the difference, right? Because a lot of the time, especially with blacktail, you can look at a clear cut or a timber edge and it's like prime. Like you think a buck's going to come out right before dark, right? But that buck might be bedded down on the creek bottom.
Yeah.
And it only comes out at dark, right? So understanding the movement patterns and using the data that's in the app to your advantage.
Yeah, I've had some conversations about stuff like that in some recent episodes. A couple episodes ago, I had a gentleman on that runs a whitetail habitat management business basically, and trail cams was brought up in a big part of our conversation, and he certainly utilizes that resource. But I think whether it's trail cams or maps in this sense, I think e-scouting can, and this is how I've used it gives you a huge leg up for sure before you, like if you're hunting out of state, if you're traveling somewhere for the first time, if you're trying to find somewhere to hunt, it gives you a huge leg up on that kind of stuff. But in like nothing replaces woodsmanship. Nothing in the end will ever replace boots on the ground, actually seeing the terrain, seeing what the animals are doing. Because I'm guilty of that. I've looked at a at a map or some terrain or whatever it might be on my phone, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good spot, or this will work out well for this, or I can do this here. And when you get out there, it's not like it's similar, but it's not quite what you expected. And that could be my lack of being able to read terrain, for example, very well on one of those platforms at the time. But also just nothing replaces actually getting out there, boots on the ground, and seeing it. And the same goes for trail cams too. Like, it shows you one picture, one snapshot of what's going on. There's a whole lot else happening in those woods that you don't understand. And I talked with him a lot about that as far as the deer behavior and stuff, because it's, just because you get a picture of a buck at a certain time doesn't mean that that's the only time that deer's moving or the only place that deer's moving.
Worst,
so
man.
yeah, it's literally ruined seasons for me in the past.
And this one year I had a big 4-point blacktail on camera, man, and it was like right inside this unit I was hunting, and I got one picture of it, and it was during daytime, and I hunted that deer that whole entire year. But back to your question, man, I think making sure that you have updated maps on whatever app you choose, whether it be Baseline or one of the other competitors. If the app is not providing you updated map, that makes it even tougher.
Oh yeah.
So one, make sure your imagery is up to date, right? If you're using something where, you look at a unit and it's been cut or thinned out, 6 years ago, and it hasn't been updated, like that makes it tough, definitely, for e-scout. And so making sure the maps are updated, and then finding those creek bottoms and those corridors where those deer are moving through. And I love e-scouting, man. I love it. And kind of plotting it out, man. Drop a bunch of waypoints. Find those movements, like where they're going to move in and out from their bedding to their feeding, and then just drop pins. Drop a bunch of pins, because I think early on, like when I was a bit younger, I wouldn't drop pins when I was e-scouting very much. I'd look at a unit. I might drop one pin for, like, here's a good glassing spot based on like the topology, but I wouldn't drop like 10 pins in this unit and say, all right, I'm going to go to each one of these pins and just write some notes. Mm-hmm. So one thing in Baseline is, like, when you drop a pin, you can do voice to text. So you can just start talking and say, all right, thinned out timber, we got a good creek bottom, it's March and it's dried out, whatever it is, rather than sitting there and just like typing it all out, right? So it's definitely going to allow you to move through those units quicker and start keeping those notes.
That's awesome. That's a pretty cool feature. Again, I don't spend enough time on all the other apps to know if that's unique to yours or not in this conversation, and I should have, but that's a pretty cool feature. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, makes it cool. So we also have and again, this is all from the community, man. So like, I kind of speak to it, but the community. So we have a journal, right? So we have the harvest journal, which you can actually like take a picture of your harvest and then put all the notes. And as soon as you click save, it'll pull all the weather for that location,
nice.
Pressure, what the weather was doing that day, a bunch of good stuff. But then you can also do voice to text there too. So kind of just walk through your hunt, man. Because if I could go back for the animals that I've gotten over the years and had the weather that day, the pressure, and all of those data points, and I kind of make sense of it over the years, like, that would be powerful, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have some obviously a lot of experience throughout your life hunting and everything. You've built this resource um, and stuff, but speaking for yourself, like you as the hunter and you as the consumer, um, when you're scouting a piece of public and you start with that e-scouting component with a resource like Baseline, what are you looking for to identify areas where you think that you're going to be successful or where hunting pressure might not be so prominent? Are there any specifics that you yourself try to utilize whenever you're doing your own e-scouting?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So if I'm hunting an area that I've never hunted before, I'm jumping on and dropping waypoints. So if I know those deer or elk are gonna be moving into those clear cuts at night, I'm gonna go look for, if I can get into that unit, I'm gonna look for like any sort of sign, right? And how fresh it is. And then I'm gonna generally look for creek bottoms. I'm gonna look for those bottoms of that land, lower lower elevation that these animals are moving in. Because I hunt Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into the higher country when I'm hunting elk, but generally I'm in that nasty, thick stuff, working those bottoms, looking for sign, and kind of piecing it together. So generally, what I do is I draw a circle of that unit that I'm going into. So if I'm hunting blacktail, I want to know. I'll hop clear cuts. So I'll drop a pin in each of those clear cuts, and then I'm going to do a big circle. So I'm just going to walk through pin to pin, checking the tops of those ridges, see if there's any good sign there. I'm going to drop down into that creek bottom, and generally I'll get on some sign, whether it be some old tracks or whatnot. And if I find some fresh tracks, I'm going to know they've been in there and how many days, like how fresh it is. So I'll start drawing those circles, and that's how I approach any new unit is big circles.
Yeah. Yeah, golly, can't talk. We already kind of talked about, just the component of going from e-scouting to boots on the ground, but the flip side of that, or the full circle, also is using that tool while you're out there and then circling back with what you have learned to better refine that resource that you have in your pocket now. So, yeah, that's some great info for sure. Nothing replaces boots on the ground. It just can't.
If I'm going into a new unit, man, I'll have probably 6 big circles, and they range from like 2 to 5 mile radius. So I'll look for scrapes. If I find some good scrape lines, like I'm gonna hone into that. But back to your point earlier, it's like, you can use apps that forecast the deer patterns and the movements, but when rut kicks in or pressure kicks in, that buck is not where it's be. That buck's going to be in the nastiest blowdown in the creek bottom and just hanging out all day and coming out pitch black, right? You're never going to see him. So you got to get down in those creek bottoms, still hunt, sit on straight stretches, let that weather push them out and move them around.
Yeah. No, the rut, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in the Pacific Northwest and the Midwest and the South, that rut changes everything for you, and you have to be able to pivot as a hunter. You have to be able to hunt differently and during the rut. That's one thing that I've probably learned a little bit too late in my hunting career, was just that, just down here in Texas, we get in our grind of, we have our stands, we have our setups, and it's like, no, I need to be a little bit more mobile when it comes to hunting the rut, because I can keep sitting the same stand setups and there's a small chance that a buck might wander through on a doe. But if I gotta have an understanding of how that buck behaves and how his behavior changes during that time, and then adjust where I hunt, how I hunt accordingly, and if I want to seal the deal. So,
man, if I'm hunting a unit, especially blacktail, and there's pressure, I'm sitting on a straight stretch, man. I'm sitting either in a creek bottom or a straight stretch and just waiting. But the same goes for elk, man. If you blow out a herd of elk, like, it might take you a day or two to get back onto them, man. They could be in a whole different unit by the time you get back on them, So forecasting and stuff is cool, but the moment a herd gets bumped or you blow out a buck, like, it's the chances of finding him again in that same spot are slim to none.
Oh yeah, it changes the game for sure. Yeah, I've had one. I've been on one elk hunt, and it was like full blown the big backcountry experience in Idaho. Ride back in 25
Oh, that'd
miles
be
on
awesome.
horseback and the whole deal. And it was a pretty incredible experience for me. But blew my mind how quickly those animals can travel and move in that terrain. Because we're hunting like we're in some pretty steep
Yeah.
stuff in central Idaho, and like we heard the guy that I was there with, he gave a little cow call. It's like 2 in the afternoon on the edge of this ridge, and way off, like you can barely hear this bull answer, barely hear it, but it's enough. I'm like, that's a bull. I'm 100% sure that that is one. And he hits it again a couple minutes later,
Oh
and
man.
it was like so much closer, and it's like this thing is moving,
Oh dude.
this thing is moving, and then it's 2 3 minutes later, and it's at the base of the ridge
Yeah.
that we're on. I'm just like, that thing covered ground, man. I'm a flatland Texas boy out here huffing and puffing just to creep around a little bit, and this animal just, I don't know, it blew my mind how quickly
Elk
those animals move.
elk hunting will test your endurance and
Oh
your
yeah.
mental strength and fortitude, man. Like where I hunt in Washington, like I'm going up and down creek bottoms, like the elevation gain and then dropping back down. And if I blow them out of an area, like they're going back into the worst country. And there's been so many times where I'll just sit at the top, after I know I'm close on the herd and they're down in the creek bottom, but it's like, man, if I go in right now, you got to pay attention to thermals too. And like your wind is so important. It's like,
Hmm.
now I'm going to blow them out and fighting that urge to like go in for them right now is so much patience involved with elk hunting, man.
Oh yeah.
It is my favorite.
Yeah, I at least my limited experience, you got a lot more than I do, was a balance of we gotta move, we gotta get over here because this
Yeah.
this this is where it's happening versus being patient at the same time, and
Yeah.
it's just it tests your mental fortitude, just the whole experience a little bit. It certainly did for me. So
There's nothing like calling in a bull, man, and it just is angry and just thrashing around, and that bull might be 10 yards in the timber and you're like 30 yards total away from it and it's just screaming, and there's nothing like that for me.
yeah.
It's just something else, man.
Yeah, the guy that I went with, he's been doing those pack trips back in there for 20 plus years and everything, and they the whole time, his whole life, they've always rifle hunted, and they got some nice rifle setups, and they can shoot out there and poke a little ways. So like his whole experience always growing up was, into adulthood has just been, once they're in range and you have a shot, you take it and you dump your bull basically, and I'm in there with a bow because
Yeah.
because I'm a
Like,
diehard archery guy, and so we called this bull into 51, and I feel like I'm nervous and trying to keep my keep my jitters down a little bit,
yeah,
and
holding that pin
and I'm
steady is hard, man.
and he's in there. He has a tag, but he's trying to get me my first bull. And there's another guy with us, Chris. He was rifle hunting and also trying to get him his first bull. So he's got a bunch of novices in there with him. Uh, but it was one of those deals. He's like, okay, if we get it in bow range, like Sam, you'll take him first, and if we either don't get a shot or he doesn't come close enough or you miss, then Chris can take him with a rifle. So that was kind of our plan, and we call this bull into 51, and I look over at him, and he's like freaking out, shaking more than I am, and he's a veteran, experienced elk hunter, and he told me later, he's like, dude, I've never called one in that close in my entire life. I've never called one in that close. I've never had a
Yeah.
bow hunter with me. I've
Yeah.
never had that happen. And Chris ended up taking it because I was at full draw, but the deadfall was so thick I couldn't get a clear shot even with him at 51. I was just waiting for it the
Yeah.
whole time, and he ended up, as the bull was circling and leaving, Chris was able to get a crack at him with the rifle, and that was cool for me too because I was like, man, this was our hunt. It's Chris's bull, Chris's tag. Chris is taking the meat home at the end of the day, but like this whole thing wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for all of us in a roundabout way. And
So
and
cool.
and me growing up deer hunting in Texas, just in a stand most of the time, it was just a whole different world. It's like, man, this is, I mean, you talk about community. That's community out there. I've never experienced a community hunt quite like that one before in my life, and it changed the game for me. I was like,
You're hooked.
this is incredible.
Yeah, man, it's elk hunting's so cool, man.
Yeah.
That's an experience. I remember I was in my 20s at the time, and Jason Phelps of Phelps Game Calls, like stand up guy, man. Such a cool dude, and I would pick his brain on Facebook, man. I'd send him messages like, "Hey, what calls should I try?" And he got me set up, and I ordered some calls from him, and I went out that next year and got my first bull. And I was like, "Is that going to happen every year?" Like
Yeah.
I just into a unit, hiked in, found some elk, called one in, and I just thought like, this is incredible. And then years and years of just struggle and pain and frustration and followed. But elk
Yeah.
hunting is once you get into the elk, man, you're hooked.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back or do another one at some point because it's still on my bucket list. I came close, but I still haven't actually released the arrow or punched the tag, so that still has to happen. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it'll happen before too long. I want to ask you, and this is something that you brought up before we actually hit record. Probably a piece of the puzzle that maybe not everybody thinks of, at least not at the forefront of their mind when they're downloading a hunting app.
Mhm.
But that's the cybersecurity component. So, what has that been like for you in the sense of growing and developing that and ensuring that while you're also building everything that people want and need to make this a productive platform over here, you're protecting protecting in the areas you need to protect on the other side of it on the backside.
Yeah, that man, the data is like it's so important. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when folks go to download an app, and whether it's a hunting app or, any other app, right? Like take some time to review that terms of service. And today with the tools that we have, like Chat GPT, for example, you can copy that URL of the terms of service and drop it in Chat GPT and say like, what's my data used for? And the more important question is, what happens when I cancel?
Mm-hmm.
That's a question that everyone should be asking, is not only what's the data used for, but what happens when I cancel is really important. Um, a lot of times, like especially some of these outdoors apps, is like if you cancel, you're forfeiting your data. So that's hugely important, And with baseline, it's when you save a waypoint or a note or really anything in the app, it just sits encrypted in a database and it's not used for anything. The only time that your location is used is to GPS and weather.
Mm-hmm.
So if you drop a waypoint, it saves those GPS coordinates, but it sits encrypted in a database. So that's how I'm always going to be building baseline maps, is with security in mind. And that's really my background is cybersecurity.
Okay.
And I think data protection is important, and not using folks' data for the benefit of the company. Like that frustrates me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would venture to bet that anybody listening to this show has probably just hit that agree button on the terms of service and called it good. I'm guilty of that, and you say that, and I can honestly say I literally did that today
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with an app that I've used plenty of times.
Yeah.
Use it almost daily, and they had updated their terms of service, and it popped up, and I was doing other stuff. I was just trying to look something up real quick, and I hit agree and moved on and didn't think anything of it. And I would venture to bet that most people out there probably do the same thing and don't take the time. You're right. The Chat GBT little tip and trick right there. That's pretty handy. You can use another platform to that has your
Yeah.
data to interpret what your data is used
I mean,
for on the first. So
up until now, like, you know, to read through a 5-10 page document terms of service and try and make sense of the talk is almost impossible, right? So
yeah.
just grab that link, drop it in Chat GPT, and start asking questions, and especially apps that you use. my hunting spots. I don't want people knowing about my hunting spots or my fishing spots. And I know folks that use the app don't want people to know. So take the time to ask questions and figure out what's going on with your data.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's
Well, and I honestly, I think that I, you just having the background, like you mentioned, in cybersecurity and being the developer on the backside of this, that is a world that I am not in, and I'm glad there's guys like you in it because I don't want to I don't speak that language, plain and simple. But that I feel like puts some minds at ease in a sense, just from the standpoint of I feel like if that's your background, I don't know how it works, man. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like you would, from the start, you're building it from that angle almost with that in mind instead of, oh, I need all this over here. Oh crap, how do I protect it? I feel like if that's your background, and this is me speculating, obviously that hopefully from the get go that's kind of at the forefront, which is beneficial.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. So a lot of security assessments back and forth. So ensuring that there's really what is called as AAA, so authentication, authorization, and accounting. You want to make sure that the user is authenticating and they're authorized to do what they say they are, and then validating that on server side. So like where that data is actually stored, like add that verification step as well.
Yeah.
There's an interesting what I'm noticing is that there's a lot of these apps being built today with these coding technologies and agentic platforms that folks can build apps on, and it's very easy to build an app today, but it's very challenging, and you really need the experience to build it not only in a scalable fashion but also in a secure fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Super important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Um, I'm trying to be mindful of our time. I don't want to go too far over, but I want to make sure that we're thorough and get through everything. And one thing that I wanted to ask you from the developer standpoint um, is is there a point where you think that technology has or is or could hurt hunters, or is technology and mapping like this, do you think that it's helping or hurting people?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I think from an app perspective, I think what I've noticed is a lot of these bigger apps, um, they're kind of in a competition to build these prediction models, right? These neural networks, prediction models, forecasting of deer and hunting like species, right? Well, that's where I'm cognizant of if 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 I'm going to build a prediction model, I need data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so much government data out there to use. So where's that data going to be coming from? That's where I kind of start questioning, like, where is that going to lead to? So
Yeah.
from my perspective, like, I know I don't want people knowing my spots. I don't want to share my data. Like, everyone else is the same, right? So I think that's why we go back to being cognizant of terms of service and all that good stuff. But from a technology perspective, man, that gets into like AI.
Yeah.
That's a big conversation. I think forecasting is going to be the one that really doesn't sit well with me, like prediction, because you need data, right? So if you start getting into that space, I don't like where that's headed. But from an AI perspective, I think I don't think, I mean, AI is like kind of the umbrella term, but prediction models is where I think a lot of these apps are going to go, and you need data, and I don't like that. That's scary to me.
Yeah.
Where's that data come from?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I think, at least in my mind, the simple answer is kind of like we already talked about. Nothing replaces true woodsmanship, and if you're trying to rely exclusively on technology, I feel like you're gonna be disappointed more times than not. I think it's a valuable tool that can enhance your abilities, but there has to be a good foundation, like we talked about earlier, of just woodsmanship and the ability to do stuff out in the field for sure. Um, the AI thing certainly is interesting because I've heard of companies that are working on releasing apps that use data from your trail cameras or use I know several years ago, Mark Drury was influential in building the DeerCast app, which is supposed to be a predict deer like you know movement and behavior prediction app essentially.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it at the time, and I tried it a couple of times. I didn't really nerd out or dive too deep into it to really say yes it worked or no it didn't. But it's yeah, I feel like it's a big question. I agree, it's a big question mark for sure right now. And
Oh,
you can. I also think back when you were talking about AI, and don't know if you're familiar, but Trent Ellis, who's a social media influencer, funny redneck guy with a big red beard down there in Mississippi. He came on the show a few episodes ago, and he did a turkey hunt this year where he like just plugged stuff into Chat GPT and told Chat GPT, put me where I need to be to kill a turkey, and it was an epic flop, an epic
yeah,
flop.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like AI doesn't know, man. And he expected that result. He made a funny video out of it, but still, it's like AI doesn't
I
understand
think
hunting.
I think it's important. So if you're good on time, I'd love to dig into this a little bit more
Sure,
because
yeah, I'm good. I shoot for an hour, but
right.
if we go over, I got no time limit. So
Yeah, because this is a space that I'm very familiar with, and I think it's super important. So I'll kind of walk you through like if I was going to build a prediction model, right?
sure.
And I had the data of trail cams and I had the data, like the user data, right? I'm going to set out to build a prediction model. So I need to understand those trail camera photos, right? So a lot of these trail camera manufacturers can say, hey, it's a buck or it's a doe, trophy class, right? Image recognition. So now I know spots where GPS coordinates from trail cameras where big bucks reside,
Hmm.
right? So now I start training this neural network of this is a hot spot for big bucks. If you want to shoot a trophy, like this is the spot based on the data that's submitted from these trail cams. And then if I want waypoints, right? So if I have user data of waypoints and this waypoint is titled monster buck or heavy 4 or wide 2 point, now I can forecast like this is a 2 point gene area, or this is a 4 point gene area. This is 4 point gene area is a trophy class unit area. And that's how I would build that model. And then when you build out that neural network, you're going to say, okay, this trail camera photo was taken at this time. This was the weather, right? This is the pressure. And you can forecast that model to say, okay, that 4 point area is really good at this time based on all this data.
Hmm.
So like that's how I would build that. And that's what scares me is, you know, these these prediction models are going in one direction and you need data. So
Yeah.
uh, if I had the trail camera like an app or an integration, I'd go through and name my waypoints like no deer, no elk,
Yeah.
terrible spot, right?
Yeah.
Because if you did that and I was trying to build a prediction model based on your spots and I'm getting waypoints that say no deer, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna project that as like that's a good area to hunt because there's no deer there.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna say on my waypoints, no deer, no elk, spike, 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 no legal bull. I'm gonna, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna obfuscate the heck out of my data. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
and then
it's an interesting concept, and I'm not scared to mention it just because I know Tacticam has built already. They're continually developing it, but they got their Habitat IQ app, which is tied to their trail cameras and everything. And we're sponsored by Tacticam, and I think they make some great cameras and do good work for us. And I had one of their reps on the show, 10 or 12 episodes ago or whenever it was to to talk about just a lot of different things, but one of them, that app got brought up, and one thing I was thinking about when he was walking me through the features of that, I was like, well, this all seems like good data to compile and understand for private land. I could see it being beneficial, but to your point, when you start talking about public, when you start talking about using data from guys who have worked hard to find those
hard, yeah.
spots to have those wheelhouses, I mean, yeah, you're building a roadmap and a complete beginner's guide for the new guy logging on for the first time on where to go to kill an elk or kill a buck, whatever it might be. And there's guys who have worked for years to scout and obtain that. And I don't want to. I know that gets into a whole conversation of gatekeeping and, guys that, hunting's for everyone and we should want to support new hunters. And I think that there's a balance in that, man. Like, I'm not the one personally to be like, no, I should never see anybody in my spots or that kind of stuff. But it's also one of those deals where it's like, well, you put in the work to get there. So
I'll tell you the direction that it's heading, man. So I don't know if it's going to be 6 months or next week or a year from now, but there's going to be like a premium tier where you pay for hotspots, and those hotspots are going to be derived from user data.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, well, my blacktail spot, right? If I have trail camera photos on there and they're getting submitted and analyzed, and I have waypoints in that area, and I have 4 point like big bucks in that spot, like that's going to be on a prediction map overlay at some point. Like that's what scares me, man. So
do you think it's going to be one of those things where, like, and I'm speaking in general context for any mapping or, app that's doing what you're doing, but you think it's going to be something where the user has to opt in, and then if they don't, then their data is not used, or are there still issues with that? I'm just curious. I'm asking out of curiosity. But
well, just to be clear, like I do not do that. That is not
right.
Yeah, this is forecasting where this is heading for these certain platforms. But
right.
I think when you accept the terms of service on using the solution, like that's when you're submitting that data for the analysis, right? And it's using image recognition. So when that trail camera snaps a photo and it says this is a buck, and it sorts your photos based on whether it's a buck or a doe, and you can categorize it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're submitting that data, and if thinking in terms of building a model around that, like I would build an overlay that shows whether it be a heat map or points on a map of where those trophy areas are. And yeah, it's kind of, I don't like it.
It's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
I can't say. I am all for using technology as a tool. I do it daily in my life in various ways, but yeah, nothing replaces the grind and the work that you put into hunt. And I get it. There shouldn't be an app that's replacing that as well in some regard. So and the privacy issue is definitely a concern. But
yeah, that's the thing I could speak to like the most is just being cognizant of how your data is used and what happens when you delete it.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, and I'm grateful for you being obviously honest and transparent with what you're building over there and how that data is being used and stuff for your users and everything. And you, in my opinion, you clearly have some honesty and an integrity about it, and you don't want to compromise anything for those people in your community that are using your platform. So I find value in that personally. So
I appreciate it, man. It's a community built app, man, and that's how it's always going to be. And it's I think spreading the word and getting other folks on board to kick the tires on it and tell me what sucks and what needs to be improved. And that's just how it's going to get better.
Awesome. So what have we missed? I know we've kind of bounced around a lot and we've covered a lot of topics and a lot of stuff related to this, but what is there anything that we haven't talked about or anything that you would like to expand on more as far as the baseline platform?
The community, man. This community is so cool. Like just this week, a gentleman never fished the rivers, and he's always been into hunting. And now he's addicted to fishing, and it's through this baseline community that we're building, and that gets me excited because at the end of the day, if we can bring these communities together, whether you fish, hunt, we have foraging in there, mining together, and kind of face these challenges together. Because at the end of the day, it's public land access for the most part is like the big challenge right now. And then on top of that is our opportunity to fish and hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't have that public land or that land access, You know, it's important. We got to like start working together on these kind of topics. So
Yeah,
bringing the legislature piece in there, the hearings, showing up to the hearings is going to be important. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome what you're building, man, for sure. Well, I have some questions that I like to ask every first time guest on the show before we wrap up. So I'll hit those up unless you got anything else to add on baseline.
I think I'm good, man. Fire away.
Awesome. Well, the first one's a short question, an easy or a simple question, but not necessarily always easy answers, and sometimes it leads to conversation. But if you could only pick one, are you picking a gun or a bow for the rest of your life?
Bow.
Bow?
Yeah.
What's your reasoning behind it?
I just thought if I'm high country bear hunting though, I want a rifle because that's fun, man. That's tough because if I'm up high and I have the spot and scope out and there's just something about it, you know, spending time with buddies, just sitting at a glassing spot. But I would go with bow because I love hunting elk with my bow. I love getting into creek bottom. I love getting close and just gets me fired up.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I love the intimacy of it. I mean, you have to work harder for it, but then just when the moment comes, I feel like everything is just honed in. Everything matters so much more.
Everything.
And you know, not I want to be clear. I'm not saying that I don't believe that rifle hunting or hunting with a firearm is not fair chase. That's not what I'm saying, but I definitely feel like as the hunter, I am I am working as hard as I possibly can in that animal's environment to be successful. I feel and I can sense the fair chase in it with a bow, and you know that's always been my thought on it as well. So I couldn't agree more. Bow is always my
There's so
pick for you.
many there's so many things hunting bow that I've had happen wrong. There's so many things stacked against you. Like I remember I was full drawn on a deer and I had a piece of a fir tree like covering my pins, you know, just like going through the brush and a piece of limb got stuck in my pins. And it's just like, man, like what are the chances of that like getting stuck? I'm full draw and now I'm staring at a branch, you know. It's
Yeah,
just so many things you got to be cognizant of. And I love it.
yeah, absolutely. Next question. Favorite hunting or fishing memories that you've had so far in your life? What stands out in your mind?
Oh, my favorite hunting memory. Probably it actually wasn't me on the hunt, but I was at work at the time and my dad had walked into a unit. You know, I had a tree stand up in this unit and he wandered out there looking for my tree stand to go sit in it. And he calls me up all excited. He said, "You gonna come help me got my deer?" And I said, "You got a deer?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got a big one." Well, he walked into this unit I've been scouting and shot this big heavy 2 point that I've been trying to get. And just the joy on his face and you know that's probably my favorite hunting memory because you know heck I still hear that story today, you know.
That's awesome.
You know, if I shoot a buck it's like still ain't as heavy as my 2 point, you know. And it was a heavy 2 point blacktail and yeah, with big old eye guards too.
Mm,
It was a unique buck.
that's awesome.
um my favorite fishing story, man, I was fishing with my buddy Ryan and J Rose Outdoors. We were just fishing a river and the whole day was tough, man. The whole day was tough. And I threw out a bead and I was like, you know what? I'm either gonna break off under this blowdown or I'm gonna scoop something out from under there. I threw that thing like across the river and waiting for it to just get snagged, you know, and then all of a sudden I just had a hard take, caught a nice buck out of there, and that was probably one of my favorite fishing stories because it was just right at the end of the day, right at the takeout, and it was just cool buddies.
Yeah.
So
I love the answers, man, and I need to start keeping track of it because the majority of people who I ask these questions to, their favorite memory always has to do with either somebody else being the hunter or them being there with a certain group of people, and
yeah,
it just goes to prove in my mind how important it is to have a strong group of like-minded individuals, brothers and sisters in hunting, and share the woods with them. Nothing replaces that, in my opinion.
nothing replaces it. Like you can get an animal or catch a fish, but if you can do it with your friends and your buddies and
Yeah.
just be stoked about it together, like it's so fun. And even like even if you don't get something, like just going out with your buddies, man, it's just so many memories, just having fun and shooting the shit and talking, and
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it too, man. Nothing comes second to it for sure in that regard. Last one of these questions I got for you is the bucket list. What is on your bucket list is that you would consider a once in a lifetime hunt or fishing trip potentially, whatever it might be, if you had the opportunity to experience it?
Yeah, one thing that I've never done that I want to is Idaho mule deer.
Idaho mule deer.
Idaho mule deer, high country. Like I've always wanted to do that, and I just haven't got around to it. So Idaho mule deer for sure. And then on the fishing side, I want to go to Alaska, man.
Yeah. There's so much cool stuff to do up there, man.
Oh,
This is the land of
salmon
opportunity.
fishing. Yeah, man. There's one of my buddies, Josh Early Bird, and he catches some fish, man. It's just so exciting. So I want to go to Alaska and I want to do an Idaho mule deer hunt.
That's awesome. Very cool, man. Well, I hope you get the opportunity to. That'd be cool. I'll leave our listeners with this, and that is just asking you what's next. Is there anything hot coming off the press from Baseline that you're excited to roll out coming up, or are you just continuing to grow and grind away based on what people are bringing you?
A lot of it's based on the community, but in this next update, we're releasing private land opportunities. So right on the homepage, you'll be able to click those private land opportunities or block management areas, see those areas, and then also who to contact in order to get onto that land and
That's
hunt.
awesome.
So you'll have, your units up above where you can click, see the regulations, the seasons. Right below that, you'll have the private land opportunities, and then right beside that, you'll have emergency notifications, either closures or emergency rule changes.
Awesome.
So
very cool. Yeah, that's a great component for sure. Well, man, tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find Baseline, where they can. I mean, obviously, download the app. I feel like it's pretty simple. You go to the App Store, but
yeah.
Tell them where they can find all your places, all your pages.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So the website is baselinemaps.io. And then if you just go onto the Google Play Store or the App Store on iPhone, just search for Baseline Maps, and it should pull up.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time this evening to come on our show and share with our listeners some just about everything that you've built with this and the resource that it is for folks. And I definitely hope that that some people download it. And I know you mentioned at the beginning that there's a free element. I don't want to be the guy over here that's advocating for the free side, but as a blue collar hunter myself, I just want to encourage people, like if you are paying for another platform or have been using another app, in my opinion, at least give Casey the chance to download it yourself and play around with that free version and just see what you think. I feel like people need to at least try it out in that regard and get a taste for it. So
yeah, the free version is stacked, man. You get the private land ownership details and stuff, and then if there's something missing in there, just reach out to me and I can generally get it added that same week. And it's been pretty fun, man. It's been a journey.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see where it goes for you, man, and we'll be certainly following along and yeah, using the product ourselves. So we appreciate you coming on the show.
Awesome. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Guys, make sure you guys go check out Baseline and everything Casey's going on. Follow them on social media. That way you can interact with him directly. He's a one-man show and everything, so you can get updates and stuff from the platform as well. Subscribe to our show if you have not already. We appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to hang it up. Be back with you guys again next week for another Fall Obsession podcast, and I will catch you then.